2, 1. Hello and welcome to Eternal Durdles. I'm your host, Zach Clark, and with me this week, Phil's out. We have Sahar Mirhadi. Sahar, how are you?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. It is,
this is great.
Beautifully dark in the UK, but I'm here. I'm excited to be talking to you, Zach. Phil can go elsewhere. It's fine. We'll have fun without Phil.
Phil's in recovery. He'll be back hopefully next week. He should be fine. Phil's okay. Nothing, you know, like Phil didn't have an accident or anything. He just
Phil has got into the ether. It's just
Phil's okay.
Yeah.
We'll rely on you for hot takes this week.
Oh, I love hot
possibly
takes.
Maybe we'll make you do a cover. But you're here because you want to talk about European Legacy Masters.
Yes, I am. I'm so excited. So I will kind of tell you a little bit of a story while we're here. So June, not April, June. What is time? June of this year, I was at the Four Seasons tournament series in Bologna, Italy. Very similar to, akin to probably SCG, a lot smaller, but very much getting like 300-400 people for Legacy, Modern, that kind of thing. And we were like, hey, we should go. A bunch of my friends were like, let's go. We had a lovely time. And I met a bunch of European Legacy players there, and everyone's really passionate about Legacy. And the Italians at that tournament also had an invitational series where they have like 30 plus Legacy leagues across Italy, and they all come to this championship at the end, and etc. And if someone fights for it, and it was won by a lovely guy called Gianmarco at that tournament. So we went for dinner with a bunch of these Legacy players, and we were like, hey, we should sort of do this. This is kind of a cool idea. And I remember the Brits, in terms of myself and my lovely sort of co-rep, Luke Kay, Tom de Decker, who's a well-known sort of vintage and Legacy player based in Belgium, Nicola Cavoni, who is sort of our main head of the European Legacy Masters, all kind of had a chat, and we were like, oh, and Sam Dams, who's also a Belgian guy. I should mention Sam Dams. Love that man. And we were like, hey, we should do something, and we should like expand this to across Europe. So fast forward now, nearly 6 months, and we now have over 20 countries involved in the program. And it's very much a vision of how we want to see Legacy move forward. Obviously, what the GPs haven't come back.
Yeah.
Very sad. I'm sad the GPs aren't back. And local events are starting to rejuvenate, and that's amazing. But there isn't really anything on a regional level. Card Market, who used to run events in Europe, have actually decided to move away from that program. And now we're in this position where Eternal formats don't really have a home to play. Eternal Weekend.
Yeah, we're kind of orphans at this point.
Yeah, I'm just like, my babies, please go into the sunset. And obviously Eternal Weekend comes, but we don't have a European Eternal Weekend. Obviously the lovely Americans do, which I think it's in Philly.
It is in Philly this year. Yeah,
it's in Philly, right?
I want to say it's the 2nd of December, 2nd and 3rd of December is
that weekend of
at
December.
The convention center in town proper, which is amazing, right by the Reading Terminal Market. If you're not,
I'm so excited.
If you're close, come to Philly.
Yeah, go to Philly. It's amazing. If I could fly there, I would. But it's also the same weekend as the European Legacy Masters. I'm super glad. There's going to be a lot of Legacy happening that weekend.
Nice.
And so we were like, okay, we should start doing this ourselves. And we kind of started banding together. We're like, what does this look like? How do we put this together? And we very much like, similar to what used to be the World Magic Cup and other events of this kind of ilk, we was very much led by each region and what their communities, and kind of the whole project was around re-galvanizing the community and sort of putting a bit of zest back into everyone's kind of Legacy community, something to fight for effectively. Because I think one thing I love about the Legacy community is that they will just play Magic, but because they can, and everyone's like, please play our cards. And that's something that's amazing, but I feel like giving a little bit of prestige and a bit of bragging rights, which I think the Legacy community quite enjoy having. If you look at Twitter, you would see that they love to brag.
Yes.
And
yes, and so many of us have been playing since the Pro Tour was like a real bragging rights kind of thing. You know, that's why I got involved in competitive Magic to begin with, is because I was like, there's a notoriety behind this, you know?
100%. I also was a bit like that. again, as a woman of color playing the game, I'm kind of, it's an interesting field to be in. But I definitely felt, we definitely felt that there was definitely something there. So we started putting our heads together, and basically a load of, we did for this event, obviously it's on the 3rd of December. It is going to be streamed at twitch.tv/4seasons. So the 4 Seasons event are hosting it. It's going to be on their Twitch. And we will basically have around 80 players.
That's awesome.
From all, yeah, which is amazing, all across Europe, who for this event have either qualified through local events, whether that's through legacy leagues or through events. So in the case of the United Kingdom, it's myself and Luke Kay who are reps, and we basically went to the community, and we have a very active legacy community here, and we said, look, we have these this tournament series / champion, and championship that we're basically doing something for. We have these slots to give out. How do we ensure that we can do this in a way that is, akin to what we actually, the kind of long-term vision of the program, which I'll get onto in a moment.
So this is sort of like the our PTQ system, where like
people or the RCQ system now. Exactly, it's very much that sort of like, regional to, it was like local to regional to get to the championship.
Yeah.
And so we basically, our big TO here put on a massive event, which was a couple of weekends ago. We gave out 2 slots there. We gave one out to one of the local sort of monthlies. And we also had, because Scotland obviously is part of the United Kingdom, we were like, yo, Scots, would you like to have an event? They were like, sure. And within like, I know what of like 10 days, put an event together, had 20 plus people in the room playing non-proxy legacy. Let's go, and had the event. So we were super stoked. And I think across Europe, that's basically what's happened. However, we recognize that within sort of a 3-month window of getting, close to 60, 80 players together might be challenging. So something we did to help increase its notoriety and prestige is invite players, and players who have given back to the community. So nice. Notable names.
I think that's super important.
Yeah, 100%. I think for something like this, especially for the first one, and moving forward, this may still stay. We're not sure. We're kind of planning our vision for 23 once this event is done and we've done the analytics. But
I mean, my stance has always been, if you create 50 plus podcasts a month, they should just invite you to the Pro Tour,
Exactly.
Or a year, not a month. That's too many.
Yeah, that's too
a month is way too much.
That's like you're just doing that 2 days. That's like twice a day.
No,
let's go. Some content creators do that, but that's quite a lot. Yeah. For example, talking of podcasts, we have invited Everyday Eternal. So Julian Nab, Kai Sawatari, and Callum Smith. They have been around for so long.
Yeah.
And we felt it was a good way of giving back. We also have invited both a couple of Eternal Weekend, I think European Eternal Weekend previous winners, and probably the most and GP winners. So Mark Voigt, who won GP Bologna in 2019, and then my personal favorite, the King of Scotland, Gary Campbell, who has, I'm so excited that Gary's going, because I was at that GP when he won, and it was literally the whole convention.
I mean, you have to be a big fan to have stayed to watch someone win a GP.
It's incredible. Like, I was there just like hanging about, and I was like, who is this guy? I know this person. And he was just incredible. He's like so humble, and he is the embodiment of what I think about when I think of like legacy community, very much giving back, that sense of just pride. People love it. And then in terms of, I would say, prestige in terms of players, I think we have invited Andrea Mengucci. Andrea Mengucci would have come anyway, but Mengucci is very well known in the Italian community. He's very well known European-wise, and we were like, well, of course we have to invite Mengucci because it's Mengucci. But it's the same. But we've also the Spanish region also decided to invite Javier Dominguez and Rodrigo Tagores and Guillem Salvador Arno, who's been sort of coming up in terms of like arena championships, and is very well known, and is for the last of the 2 4 Seasons events has either top 8 or top 16. So he's an incredible player. But we've got, and then other names, like in terms of big names, Stefan Schutz and a few other kind of big HJ Kaiser, and kind of these big powerhouse legacy players that have been around forever and ever and ever. We were like, we have to invite them because
I mean, this sounds like a who's who of people who have cracked a fetch after casting Brainstorm to me.
Exactly. And it's so, I'm so excited to have these people there. But mixed in with all of that is just players who, you know, you know, the dream of when you go to the Pro Tour, you qualify for an event, you go to the event, you go to be crowned Legacy champion. And we wanted to embody that so players who did well at an event could still have that journey.
Yeah.
And then the thing that we were super passionate about, and this is something as someone from an accessibility perspective and inclusivity perspective, Legacy is not cheap. We know Legacy is not cheap. As much as
it's not getting any cheaper either.
It's not getting hit. Trust me. When I got into the format, dual lands are still expensive. They're still very expensive. But we recognized that and we were like, look, we don't want people to not play the game because of card availability. So the tournament itself, whilst it is played at a competitive rules enforcement, we decided to actually make it unsanctioned. So you can, if you don't have the card, it can still be a play test proxy friendly environment.
I wish they would do this for Eternal Weekend.
I wish too.
Right?
It would be great, wouldn't it?
Like I used to be able to play Vintage, but I sold all my stuff when I moved. So now I either have to borrow stuff or I have to be the guy who tries to get, like, they give an award to the best unpowered player. Yeah. So like that's what I'm gonna have to go for this time around.
Just Force of Wills and Deathrite Shamans, let's go.
Yeah, man. Just playing Collector Ulfs.
Yeah,
Collector Ulfs and Strip Mines.
I love it. Just Alpine Moon Collector Roof. This is all you need to do. Just turn things sideways. And so, yeah, I agree. And we were very passionate. I especially was like, we have to do this. And I'm aware that in Europe, there is a lot of power here. There's a lot of legacy players. There's a lot of just reserve casts in Europe. That's not a, I don't say that's an understatement. But we were like, no, we have to make sure that financially this isn't a thing to do. Also, the players aren't paying entry because they're flying themselves out there. Some events had travel bursaries, but it wasn't something that we were like, we will give you this, similar to what, like, you know.
So do you have sponsors for this event?
We do.
Nice.
Yes. So yeah, we did get sponsors. Obviously, the first one, it's a bit challenging to get sponsors because it's a vision. It's a vision that you're basically buying into. Fortunately, I have. Before my previous life, I worked in sales and marketing for 12 years. So I was like,
that helps.
What? Well, one of the first committee meetings, and we were like, does anyone have commercial experience? And it's just like,
yeah.
And I'm like,
sure,
okay, I will talk to them. So we already had a sponsor from the get-go, who is a lovely gentleman called Gianluca Boza. And Gianluca Boza runs a fairly, I would say it's a small store in Italy, but it's well known. He is probably one of those, I think every city and every country has one of those vendors who always gives back to the community and is very well known. He ran, like, I think he's run, it might be Paupergeddon, which is like a big Italian like pauper event. But Gianluca Boza is very well known. And so Boza MTG, when Niccolo Cavoni and Samuele Dejani, who are like the main sort of leads on this project, went to Boza and were like, look, we have this vision. Boza was like, hey, I will just invest in your vision, and
Amazing.
we will give you some store credit, and we will also sponsor the top 8 playmats. So we have a beautiful original design from an artist in Europe, which is going to be like with our logo and their logo to have for the top 8. They are beautiful, and they're going to be on coverage, so you can see them. So we've got a couple spare for coverage, and we'll give them to the top 8. Then I had a lovely conversation with 3for1 Trading, who are a very big vendor out in Vienna, in Austria. And they, from a European GP, every European GP, they're there. Every time I went to a European GP, they're there. Their prices were good. They're also really friendly to talk to. And I spoke with them. I said, you guys are well known. The Austrian legacy community, weirdly, is probably the most active for a country so small. They have probably one of those active communities in Europe. And we were like, your community is already singing its praises. Why don't you jump on the ride? So they also are giving us a little bit of store credit, but a lot of merch. I am giving out a load of goodie bags and
awesome.
a lot of
door prizes, the whole deal, right?
Just more prizes, just prizes and prizes.
Yeah,
and
great.
they're also, and for them, I also asked them whether we could use their playmat and put our logo on it with the details of the event. So we have a sort of semi-customized playmat for the top 16 with our logo, their logo, a beautiful playmat, and sort of the details of the event. So there's a kind of a commemorative element to it. And then we've got a couple, and then two of our reps, one who in Response podcast, so which is run out of the Austrian Legacy League, Phil Klein, Peter Plank, and Daniel Pernish, give them a shout out, and Bazaar of Boxes, which are based out in Netherlands. Shout out to Marvin. They are basically doing smaller sort of gifts effectively. So one of the things that were just literally, I was looking on Discord about it. The In Response guys are making ELM playtest jewels as like, so basically it's got our logo and then it's got sort of, you know, the Scrublands thing, but all the pictures are from community members.
Oh, that's so cool.
Credited with where it is. So in the case of, I think one was from like the Isle of Man, one is from there. It came from a tweet that one of the Austrian Legacy players did of, there is an island off Croatia that when you take a picture of it looks like tropical island. And we were like, we could put this on a card. So a bunch of community members got pictures from like, you know, Europe, and we're like, is this an underground sea? Is this a scrubland? Is this a plateau? And I'm really excited to like give those to players as like,
that's so cool,
collectative mementos. So I'm really excited. So we've got some sponsors. Again, it's not like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and thousands of euros, but it's something. And then we're in discussions with other vendors for next year. The fact that we even got any sponsorship, I am just
it's amazing.
It's proud.
Awesome. Yeah,
I'm just like, let's go.
It's always
guys.
good when you don't have to like risk everything to try and make an event work. When you know there's people out there that are willing to give back to the community, you know. Exactly.
And certainly we were very fortunate that Four Seasons, who are running we're getting the event space for, were already on board, because they already did the invitational, and they were like, well, we're already doing it. So
Four Seasons the hotel, not Four Seasons landscaping.
Four Seasons. So it's called Four. So the reason why it's called Four Seasons,
famous place in Philadelphia.
Exactly. The Four Seasons. No, so Four Seasons tournaments are based out in Italy. Or it's called Four Tournaments, but Four Seasons tournaments, because they do one in the spring, the summer, the autumn, and the winter. But the times are weird, but it's fine. But so it's for that's why they're called the Four Seasons. And so this one's the autumn tournament, even though it's in December, because it's the end of autumn, which I think is quite nice. But it's amazing. Like I'm happy that we found someone who we could find somewhere to host it. We found someone who could sponsor it, and we have players who want to go to it. You know, it's quite a good narrative. You know, I'm someone who kind of likes a good story. It's like, if you just tell players, would you like to be European Legacy champion? Not the Legacy TO that we have here, because that's a whole, or the community, the Legacy community, when we found out that the TO that does all the, like the dream hacks and things like that, is called Legacy here. Did you hear? I don't know if you might not seen this. Yeah, the TO who runs all the RCQs and like regional events in Europe is called Legacy Tour. And so when we made our name, we were like, people are going to get confused. So we were like, we will call it European Legacy Masters and hope that is much of the distinction that people will understand. Because the amount of, especially competitive players who were like, are you the same thing as like this? I'm like, no, we're not. But just fine. But the community were like, you are joking, right? You're calling it after a format, which is fine. But we've made the distinction. I have done some good work on social media to make sure there is a distinction. And actually, from that side, it's you know, as I was saying, having players who, you know, want prestige and just want bragging rights, it's quite a powerful narrative.
It's a huge narrative to offer somebody the ability to just be like, now I'm the champion. You know, like that's a lot of times a good enough prize for a lot of people. Obviously, there'll be other prizes too, but like, you know.
Yeah, but it's the fact that we sort of set it up. So the way that the qualifier is set up is we also encouraged, because for us it was sort of, you will get there how you get there. We also semi-encourage players to travel to the events to qualify. So just because you're living in, say, France, doesn't necessarily mean you couldn't qualify in Germany or the UK. So much so, I'll tell a small story. Our Spanish rep, who's an Italian guy, so Lorenzo Tassone, I will call him out. Lorenzo Tassone is an Italian guy living in Barcelona who traveled to London to qualify for one of our events. And I was like, that's amazing. Yeah, that's the narrative that I enjoy.
Yeah, that's a great narrative. I mean, that's what we did, you know, in the States. We would every weekend, when like Pro Tour qualifier season was on, we'd get in the car and like everyone would just be like, okay, we're driving to Pennsylvania, we're driving to upstate New York, we're going to Jersey, you know, like
just take all the things. And so for us, it made sense. And like, I definitely, so the best example of this closer to home for me is Ireland kind of came in sort of semi-late to the process. And we were like, we're just going to run one event, it was 4 slots to each country. That's the way we did it. We're like 4 slots each region. I think that's a nice little spread of invites to have. And Ireland were like, well, we'll just run one event and we'll give the 4 invites out. We're like, okay, that's fine, you can do that. And a lot of countries did that because of the time restriction. And 3 of the slots have gone to British people. We're like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's fine because it's just what it is. But we were like, oh, there's a lot of
Britain.
Good. Well, actually, I think based on the split, I think the UK has the most players.
Okay, fine. Fair enough.
Like I've sort of weaved this in that apparently we just have a lot of players. But in terms of we also have a narrative of just, you know, from coverage looking at sort of who the teams are, just, you know, the players that are coming from that region. Spain has like a bunch of Pro Tour top 8s and GP winners in their slots. Italians have Gucci, so, you know, this is fine. And it's like Spain and Italy are like completely stacked, but then all the other countries also just have really good players, and we're like, I have no idea who's going to win this, and that's amazing. I'm excited, but I don't know.
It'll be really fun to see what happens.
Yeah, I can't wait. So for us, yeah, we're gonna be streaming it, and that I think is the reason why I'm kind of talking to people is just get people watching. I think looking at especially what Anurag Das has been doing with getting coverage of Eternal formats, it's just a step closer to doing that. And again, our little thing is just one part of it. And for us, we obviously want to grow it and put it into the future, but it definitely helps, you know, people who go, oh, what about coverage? And we're like, we're going to do coverage. Don't worry. We're going to show you the best we have to show nice. The best legacy that Europe has to offer. And I'm now seeing players who are, you know, testing for it and getting excited for it. I'm like, oh, I'm like such a proud mum. Because on the day I'm going to be running around. But once anytime you're running an event, it's always just chaos around. for the people running it. Exactly. And I've said to a bunch of the reps, I think there's like 20 plus reps who are going to be there. And we said some of the reps are either working and some of the reps are playing and some of the reps are just being there to be there for support. And because a couple of the reps have also qualified as players, and we're like, I'm not stopping you. Of course you can qualify.
That's why we're here, you know, to play
that's literally what the whole point is. But one of our guys was like, once the event is done, don't talk to me and until the end. Once the event is running, because he's basically been doing a lot of the back end, and he's like, I'm going to go play vintage. Don't talk to me. I'm like, okay, I will be the person to, I'll collapse after the event. Basically, is the gist. But it's going to be. I didn't realize from an organizational standpoint, just having sponsors. Merch. What do we do? There's so much merch. I'm just there like, I've got boxes of merch. I'm like, what do I do with all this? Just like give it to you. Just like, here you go. Here's some dice. Here's some bottles. Yeah. I've got so many goodie bags. I'm just gonna be like,
just like that's a little, the way to do it. Just get it out there.
Of just like everyone would anyone like a goodie bag. And because I'm funny enough, I'm quite I can be heard in most locations because my voice carries.
I am also a loud person.
I'm also a loud person too, loud people together. So I definitely at the Four Seasons event get I think the title, my favorite title that I got was just, have you seen that small beige lady running around being quite loud? And I am like, yes. Although my favorite one of those, obviously, there's obviously some that I get like which are a bit derogatory. I ignore those people because they're basically, whatever. Yeah. But my favorite one and an event I was just at was not Sahar Mirhadi, ELM rep, not Sahar Mirhadi, passionate about Legacy, not Sahar Mirhadi, moon stompy player. Sahar Mirhadi, the lady who was playing the initiative cards because I was playing Chaos Adventurer in my Moon Stompy deck. And so that's what everyone knew me for the entire tournament. I was like, that's a good one. I'll take the lady who played the initiative cards. I mean, I was probably only like one of 3 other, non-white guys in that tournament. But I will take the lady who played the initiative cards. But yeah, it's going to be super, super, super exciting. It's definitely a month away now, which is mildly terrifying. I just I received this morning the task list of all the things we still have to do, and there's still a lot we still have to do, but I'm super excited by it. And I think the overall vision for us is to ensure that legacy communities in Europe thrive. That's 100% true. And that there is some, I'd say, communication, or at least sort of synergy between local legacy on like a country level or even like a community level and sort of the wider perspective. And I think this is something
the greater community. Yeah,
exactly. Greater community coming together. And I think I look at across the pond and I look at the States and I see these pockets of legacy communities kind of thriving. The NRG series, SCG cons are coming back. And it's incredible because it's like, yes, you have to, the idea of you driving 8 hours to an event still terrifies me as a Brit.
Yes, it's a lot.
Because I'm just like, you don't drive. Yeah, 8 hours is like really short. I'm like, 8 hours is short. I get to Scotland in 8 hours. And that's really far away. But that's a whole other thing. But for us, it's like getting to go to somewhere where you can play Legacy. And prior to the pandemic, I think Eternal Weekend was the closest thing that players had, where it was just everyone came together because we loved Eternal formats. And the fact that the 4-season tournaments in Italy are trying to still maintain that coverage. And I am very, very, very grateful that Italy loves Legacy. I cannot stress to you, Zach, how much Italians love playing Legacy. The first event I went to at this tournament, there was nearly, I think there was nearly 300 Legacy players for the main event. That's unheard of.
Do you think it has anything to do with the like connection to Catholicism?
I have no idea.
And then
but it's
incredible. Miter being a card that you can play in Legacy.
I think also because of I wonder. I've spoken to Italians about this. I think they just, a lot of them grew up with it. It was kind of because of because of a lot of cards.
It was the very first language that they printed Magic in other than English.
Yeah, which makes a lot of
Italian
sense.
Legends. Yeah.
And there's so many Italian Legends cards just floating about. You just go to stalls and there's just tabernacles, and I'm like, what? What's this? Oh, that's a tabby. I'm gonna walk away. I can mortgage my house for that card. But it's just the passion from them. And I think Legacy is one of those formats, and coming to it in the I actually came to it quite late. I came to it in 2019. Rug Oko Delver.
Oh man.
I love that. Well, my sort of not claim to fame, but my sort of big Legacy moment so far, outside of doing the ELM work, is at GP Bologna 2019, 9-0 day 1, after playing the format about 2.5 months.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I've never day 2'd a Legacy event. I've day 2'd like 2 sealed events, and I don't really play limited all that often, but I cannot get hot at big events for some reason.
Yeah. For me, it was a fever dream, that whole event. But the second day we went 06 that day, but that's fine. But
been there.
We've all been there. But no, for me, the way that I look at that event now, I kind of look at it with sort of fondness. It's like bittersweet fondness. So the for me, where I knew that it wasn't meant to be, and the running hot, and my Oko was still. That was also the event that 10 days before they banned Ren and 6. So we put a Silver Library and a Fire Ice in my deck, and just no. Ren and 6 was incredible. I look. I'm very minority view. I think Ren and 6 will be fine, but
I mean, I know it wasn't fine, but I loved it.
I loved it. I was like, literally.
I'm like, can I have this wasteland back? This is amazing.
Let's go. Let's wasteland. This wasteland is very good. Oh, bring Fetchland, play my Tropical Land, and play Tarmogoyf, go. Literally, how do you ever lose?
Ridiculous.
Yeah. But I remember that event, the round 10. Because you played 9 rounds on day 1, and you played the first round of day 2 and day 1. I remember round 10, I played against Stefan Schutz, who came second in the event in the end. And I would describe him as the progenitor, or at least one of the progenitors, of what became Bug Snowco. That sort of with Astrolabe, he was playing Icefang Quattles, Charlish Trackers, Baleful Strix, Meekstones, just bug value, and you're just there like, I was there playing Rug Delver, and it was that one moment in my sort of Magic life that I felt completely out of my depth, and playing against the player who was miles ahead of me in terms of how to play and what he was doing. And I got schooled. I got completely schooled. But for me, I look back quite fondly on that memory, because I'm like, you know what? For the fact that I walked into a format and just
pretty good.
I was like, I had all my bad matchups, and then Storm came and Post came, and I was like, it's fine. I'm basically dead. But I look back. For me, that was the hook that got me into the format, and I played Delver for a long time. Then the pandemic came, and then I came back to it. Funny enough, sort of this time last year, and was like, it's my legacy. I've still got all my cards, still all my Delver cards. Still, the deck can't be that bad. Deck was good when I played it.
Turns out it's quite good still. Yes,
it's quite good still. I have opinions on that, but they're not. Well, I will mention one thing about that. But I came back to it, and then the rest of it's history. And now I'm here, and I'm doing all this. But the one thing that I spoke to us on another podcast, and I kind of feel it's a conversation piece I think a lot of players are passionate about, is like, we obviously, the last BNR announcement came, and we had our 2 paragraphs of Leyline Binding and Ledger Shredder, and now Leyline Binding gets play, which I find hilarious. But I've sort of said this on Twitter a few weeks ago. I was like, look, if they don't have the bandwidth, that is fine. Let the community take the bandwidth.
We keep saying that.
Please.
There needs to be a community like, just like the EDH community thing has,
or even
the thing, and the Pauper format has a thing. We need a panel.
Well, we do need a panel. However, I'm going to asterisk what I'm about to say. There is a very strong distinction between deck specialists who care about their particular archetype. So we're talking like the blue mages of this world, your land mages of this world, your artifact mages of this world, your prison mages of this world, and being a custodian of the format.
Yes, I think that's important. A custodian of the format is obviously way different than like a guy who just wants to play Rogue Delver, for sure.
Yeah, and I think within the community there are 100% are people, but it's challenging to find a good balance, because anyone you suggest, someone will be like, I don't want that person. I'm like, and you also need diversity. Like the reason why the Pauper format panel I think works is that it's not just with peace and love. It's not just 10 people from the States. There are people from Europe, there are people from Australia, and there are people from Asia. And I think if we're going to do it with Legacy, like, I have an idea of who I'd like, because I think they would actually be custodians of the format.
Yeah.
But I also recognize that there'll be people who the community suggests because they think it would be good, because they're good players. And being a good player versus, and this is something actually with the ELM, it's actually quite interesting. It's like, not the reps are good players, but to be someone who organizes events and gives back, doesn't that person and being the best
player, you can be terrible at Magic and be very good at that. Yeah,
exactly. Like I'm not saying I'm not a bad player. I have some small accomplishments, but I enjoy my deck. I enjoy playing Magic, and that's kind of what I'm there for. And for me, my whole mantra right now is about consistency. I've been playing Mono Red Prison since the summer, and everyone's like, "Oh, you play your prison strategy? Isn't it really easy?" And I'm like, "It's got no agency." I'm like, legacy decks are difficult by nature.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Even the most simplest ones.
Even Burn. I have a buddy who plays Burn every single event, and like he leaves every event with a headache.
So Burn was my first modern deck. Yeah, I went from my kind of Magic history. I started playing modern first because modern back then was good. So I went I went from Burn to Tron.
Okay.
Because I was like, let's just do big things. I went from big little things, and then Tron. I played Tron when Lantern Control was massive. Oh God, that was just my brain used to explode. I'd be like, what? Why have I? You lose the will to live, and you'd be like, but I have hope. And then I moved from Tron to Scapeshift, and I adore Scapeshift, and I would play it again if it was good, but it's not. As much as the modern community tells me it's still good, I'm like, how? Literally, someone goes Ragavan, go. You're literally you lose. And I stopped playing around. I basically stopped playing Scapeshift during Hogak Summer because it was stone cold unplayable. And it left. I felt modern at that time was sort of building to something, and it was like going more powerful. Modern Horizons had come, and we were like, there was just this. I basically felt like we're just two ships passing in the night. And like of course. Yeah, I was playing Scapeshift, so I basically took responsibility for that. But it definitely felt the least interactive kind of Magic I think I'd ever played. And I was like, I just want to try something completely different. And a friend of mine said, why don't you play Legacy? And I was like, cool. I love playing powerful cards. And they were like, do you want to play Nick Fit? And I was like, yeah.
I could have guessed Nick Fit off of going from Tron and Scapeshift. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I played Nick Fit for a little bit, and then Callum Smith, good guy Callum Smith, was like, Sahar, because I basically said I want to play Burn or like Moonstompy. That was actually my first choice. I was like, I know how to play red cards. I'm quite good with red cards. If Tron doesn't exist, Scapeshift doesn't exist, what else can I play? And he said, to be honest, if you want to learn the format and you want to learn, and I say this to every new Legacy player now in terms of what they want, if you want to learn the format and how you are against all the format, you learn to play Delver, and you lose for the first 6 months because that's what happens. Even I know the cards are incredible. The cards are very powerful. You will get wins, but you accept that when you're learning a format, you will just lose. Yep. And that's happened to me because everyone's like, oh, it's really easy. I'm like, no. It is if you're very good at it. But for the majority of us, it takes time to get good again and understand the format and where you fit. And that's what I did. I just unfortunately, at the time, Rug Delver was the best thing you could be doing. But even when I came back to it again, I picked up Delver again because I was like, well, I need to understand what the format is. And I say to new players now, what do you want to do? Because if it's like you want to learn the format, you play Delver. If you want to do powerful Magic and you just want to do something like you're playing like Legacy once a year, maybe twice a year, you just want to do powerful Magic, then I say, what kind of powerful Magic? Do you want artifact powerful Magic? Do you want to cheat on mana? Do you want to just have something there's an AB combo? And, it usually becomes like Reanimator, Storm, if they're kind of that way inclined, or something like Show and Tell. And I'm like, or Depths if they're used to like land style strategies. Because I'm like, that's the most powerful thing you can do. That's one thing I love about Legacy is that you can do some very powerful things. And everyone's like, oh, it's like a turn one format. I'm like, no. Yeah, sometimes you get Dark Ritual Doomsday. And that's
very rarely, but yes, yeah.
Yeah, most of the time it's like turn 4 to 8. Or in the case of, in case of control decks, turn 10,000 years later, which is fine. And I'm on board with that. And I think the Legacy community, the PR of the Legacy, the PR of Legacy has taken a hit over the years. And I feel like certainly what we're doing with the European Legacy Masters is just kind of showcasing that, no, it's really cool. It's not just Delver. Like, yes, of course, Delver exists. We're not going to deny you the best deck in the format.
Yeah.
But I always compare like European results to American results, and there is definitely more diversity in European events.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Than there is American events.
Yeah.
But I've spoken to players about this, and they, I remember I've spoken to so Adam Wasburn Moses, who is based out in Ohio, in Cincinnati, and he came to one of the Four Seasons events in September. And I said, why is it at the NRG, one of the last NRGs, it was like 7 Delver players and Rodney Bedell playing Depths. And it was like, why is that? So yes, because Delver's the best thing you could be doing. So everybody's just trying to win and do the best thing.
Especially when you only go to one event, it's just like, well, you want to win that event. When there are slightly more events spread out, like I don't play because I got rid of my duels. So I'm playing Death Shadow, like Bug Death Shadow with Berserk, and an 8-cast because I can afford 8-cast.
Yeah.
So I generally, if I have to choose one of the two, depends on if I'm gonna get a chance to play Legacy again anytime in the near future. If I will, then I'm gonna play Death Shadow because it's just a fun deck to play, and also people won't necessarily be expecting it, so I have like kind of an edge there. But if I know I'm only going to get to play once and I want to maximize my chance to win, I'm going to go with 8-cast because 8-cast is the better deck.
Powerful. It's a very powerful. It's kind of been. I feel like 8-cast is a deck that online doesn't get as much representation because Delver's figured out how to play against it. Whereas in paper, so our last big UK event, 8-cast was like top 5 deck of the top 5 deck in the room. Of the UK meta is very strange. Everyone's like, it's Delver, and it's like, we were quite known for being the Death and Taxes country. And I think the 2 events we ran, which was 100+ people, it was Delver, Lands, and Moon Stompy. I was like, let's go. It's like the triumvirate. It's like, Delver beats Lands, Moon Stompy beats Lands, and Delver and Stompy kind of smash each other in the face, and we're like, well, one of yours win. And then Painter, because Callum. Painter's very popular in the UK because, also we have a very big Painter community, full stop. Callum loves it, but we also have other Painter aficionados who are just like devoted to this 2-card Monty combo. And they're like, it's just like, I remember a load of players who were telling me, oh, Sahar, you play Moon Stompy now? Why don't you play Painter? I'm like, they're different decks. Very different. I want to play with Goblin Rabble Master and just turn things sideways. It's very simple. But that's basically the main things about the European Legacy Masters. We have a Twitter, which is EU Legacy Masters, and I'm just excited to just see how it goes. I think it's going to go as well as I think it will be. But I encourage people to tune in, follow us. We are doing weekly updates. We are doing a load of spotlights on communities. We just did one on Bulgaria. We're doing one on Switzerland, to kind of just showcase just the breadth of the community and what we're doing.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll link everything below for the YouTube, and then also you can check out our Twitter handles, and we'll definitely
100%
include everything there too. And I mean, Phil and I will definitely be checking it out. While I think Phil is not going to be at Eternal Weekend. Not positive about that, but I definitely will be because it's like I can walk there.
Literally walk.
Yeah. So I'll be checking it out anyhow in between rounds to see what's going on. And I think obviously there's a bit of a time difference. I feel like there's a time difference.
It's always a time difference. Yeah, there's a bit of time difference, but you'll catch it and you can catch the VODs and things like that. But I just want the Legacy.
It's gonna be a great news week for Legacy. I'm super excited.
It's gonna be so much news that week, and then the thing is, all of December is just It's just eternal until Christmas. Just all Eternal stuff. I'm also going to play Eternal Weekend online the weekend after.
Awesome.
I'm gonna have Legacy just inject into my veins and be like, oh. And I get to play. I'm going to play Moon Stompy because.
Have you received a giant card yet?
No.
You gotta get your giant card.
You got a giant card, Zach?
I have a giant card.
Oh.
It's not a very good one.
No, that doesn't matter. I just want a giant card. The one card. The one
worst
card.
giant card to own. No one will buy this from me. If you want to buy this from me.
No, you can keep your 8-mana Rivals of
Still good in this format though. The giant card format, like if you can cast that, so good. They need to reprint Reanimate.
Reanimate, let's go. So the giant card for the online one is the Tabernacle. The Tabernacle.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good one. I actually, out of Eternal Weekend, what I actually want is those ponders, because
Very cool, yeah.
they're ponders.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember when the Tabernacle got announced. All the European lands pirates just were like, give it to me. I'm doing it in my life. But yeah, I haven't got a big card. The only big card I would like, I know there's a streamer called Benjamin Olmer who owns this Hazaret, and I was just like,
that's cool.
I'd want that Hazaret just here, just big chilling. But yeah, I will take any big card.
Yeah.
Golgari Grave Troll. My husband my husband just wants like all the graveyard big cards that like exist. Okay. I'm like, just put one in your office and be like, the closest thing I've got to that in our home is my husband. When we moved into our new home, got one of those frames that you can put cards in, similar to like the
of course.
He put his first ever deck together, bought all the cards again. Man. So it's a green black Pattern of Rebirth deck with like Rancor.
Oh, very cool.
Like ancient silverback. But
nice.
I remember, Zach, you've been I imagine you've been playing.
Mine would have, I've been playing since Ice Age, so mine would have been like Apprentice Wizard and Polar Kraken.
I love it. I'm quite new. New to compared to you and my husband. I came into it in Journey into Nyx, and then my first big set was my first pre-release was Battle for Zendikar, because there was a tweet going around saying what mythic you open. Get in Allied Zendikar. Still got that. It's in a cube. But I fell in love with it. But yeah, I remember asking my husband Daniel, who also both talking about Magic quite a lot, and I was like, what was the rule that you thought you knew was a rule but actually wasn't?
Wow, yeah, go ahead. I've got one.
So he didn't know there was a second main phase for the longest time.
Oh man. So we used to just take our lands and put them under the spell we cast. The creatures were really bad, because if the creature stayed in play, you just couldn't cast anything else.
Just cast your spells.
Were great because they go to the graveyard.
Just put it in, it's fine. And then the other one was so the reason why Ancient Silverback is like one of my husband Daniel's favorite cards.
You didn't know Echo was a thing?
No, this was Regenerate. It had Regenerate. He thought Regenerate meant you could just reanimate it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's Regenerate. It's a 6/6 of trouble.
A buddy of mine didn't. A buddy Tim. You might know him. Ziggy Stardust. Tim.
Yes.
Tim didn't know what that walls couldn't attack. So Illusionary Wall is a 7/4 with first strike for 4 mana.
Look, that's amazing. That's card's incredible. So I just did my favorite thing of like old Magic, because I also one thing obviously going into Eternal formats and playing with people who like Eternal format, you go older, you just keep going. And in the UK, old school is quite a big thing here. Don't ask me why Vintage just died, but old school very popular because old boomers.
We love a fan format,
They love it for some reason. I don't get it, but it's not for me. Pre-mod on the other hand, love that for. But they I just remember talking to them and I'm just like, guys, these cards are bad. I'm like, it's like Sarah Angel and Savannah is the best thing you could be doing. Yeah. And they're just like, yes, heart's incredible.
The answer is no. Stasis is the best thing you can be doing.
I mean, Stasis is the thing. But Sarah Angel is just an absolute powerhouse. But it's been amazing just like enveloping myself into the Eternal format community, because coming from Modern and playing Standard and Commander, it's a slightly different thing, because I think the Commander community also shares a lot of passion. The Eternal format community just loves Magic, absolutely adores Magic with every fiber of their being. And there is occasionally, yes, there are some people who go, oh, I don't want Eternal format, I don't want supplemental stuff in my format. Look, the heritage thing,
it's fun. Play heritage, that's fine, go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to play heritage, live your best life, Habibi. I'm not gonna yuck your yum. But I am somebody who wants to encourage new things, and if it does, like, there hasn't been a card, with the exception of Modern Horizons, but I think Modern Horizons kind of broke everything. But I think that coming from modern, so this is my point I was trying to make, coming from modern and standard, where it was just all about the competitive mindset and literally trying to break it, and every season you're trying to qualify and all that things like that. I enjoyed that grind, and I still do. I still love doing it occasionally. But coming to a format where it's just, you just tone it down just a tiny bit, and then it's all about just love of the format and just get to play powerful Magic. And for me, like, in terms of kind of why the whole kind of conversation we're having today is just that passion and that enthusiasm for Magic is so prevalent amongst these types of players. And yes, we know there are problems. We know card availability is a challenge. We know that the format, you know, may have to adapt in terms of providing proxy-friendly environments so people can play. Like, I have a bunch of friends who want to play Legacy but can't afford it. And I have to tell them, either come and play proxy events or play it online if you already have, you know, Magic Online. And that's kind of it. And even there, like, oh, Sahar, you're, you know, why I get the feeling you're trying to gatekeep. I'm like, no, I'm doing the opposite of gatekeeping. I'm trying to bring you in.
That is the exact opposite. Yeah.
My favorite story of this, though, is at this last big UK event we did. A friend of mine, we were on the train back. This is, I've been talking about Legacy quite a lot. I'm like, yes, I love it. It's like, you know, was it, you know, per chance I would want to inquire about Legacy. And I said, what do you like doing? And he said, oh, I really like graveyard stuff. Like this, he was one of these players when
we got graveyard stuff.
We got graveyard stuff. And he said, oh, I really liked playing like Vengevine Hollow One in Modern. So you can still do that. So it's called Madness. You have all the root wallers now. You have million root wallers. Vengevine, Putrid Imp still does good thing, and you can still play Hogak. And he's like, go on. And I showed him the Madness deck, and I was like, this will kill you. Like, it kills opponents. It will just do its thing on turn 1 and 2, and you know, you just have to fight graveyard hate in grave 2. But you know, he was used to that playing Modern. And then I get a screenshot 6 hours later of a Hogak, 2 Vengevines and a Hollow One on turn 1. And he's like, I think I found the deck for me.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. That's how it works.
It's pretty good. And he was like, yeah, I've had like 3 turn 1 concessions. I'm like, yep, welcome to Legacy.
Yep, great. But I don't want to cut you off, but we are coming up on time. So the EU Vintage Masters Legacy.
Oh, don't worry.
Legacy Masters is going to be December 2nd and 3rd.
It's going to be December 3rd.
December 3rd.
It is starting at 11 a.m. Central European time, so it's going to be quite early for the States. Yep. Like 5. It's going to be about 4. It's going to be about 5-6 in the morning.
It'll be great. We'll be able to see what's going on. Go to day 2 of the.
Exactly. It's like like watching old Pro Tours where it's like all the way on the side of the world. So it's 11. It starts at 11 a.m. So I imagine we'll start coverage around sort of lunchtime, Central European time, and it's going to be between 6 to 7 rounds. We're just finalizing player numbers, but it'll be 6 to 7 rounds plus a top 8. So it'll be on for the whole of the day, and we'll be having coverage. Literally. As we're doing this podcast, there's a coverage meeting happening kind of alongside this, where the team are putting together plans for interviews and player spotlights and showcasing kind of decks and events and things like that. So there'll be a lot to showcase, and obviously our sponsors will be there, just kind of like, hello.
Amazing.
And yeah, just there'll be some familiar faces as well on sort of coverage. So I'm looking forward to it. It's also going to be in Italian and in English. We're going to have it in 2 languages. Awesome. So you get a bit of flavor. But yeah, other than that, follow us on Twitter. I run the Twitter account, so you guys can just be like, Sahar, hello. I'm like, I'm waiting for you furiously. But yeah, EU Legacy Masters on Twitter. And if anyone, and then EuropeanLegacyMasters.com is our like website. It has basically the vision. It has how you qualify, player profiles, and we will start posting our tournament structure and the prize support pretty much in the next week or 2. And awesome. So we'll have like a dedicated page where it can break everything down, because we wanted to confirm price support before we started doing that, but our players will have that as well. And then we have a little Discord server, which is currently just for reps and players, but we may expand that to others once the event is finished, and we can be like, community, come and say hello.
Awesome.
But for now it is we're getting on with it. It's the final push. It's the final push, which I'm slightly terrified by, but it's good. I'm excited. That's all that matters. But it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Zach.
Yes, Sahar, thanks so much for coming on.
Fine. Cool. And then obviously me, I'll plug myself. Sahar Mirhadi on Twitter. Just put the name in, I'm there. Just talking about magic. If I'm not talking about magic, I'm talking about my PhD, where I look at video games and difficult life experiences. And if I'm not talking about either of things, cat or wrestling. These are the 4 things you come to when you come and talk. But just cool. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, yeah, that does it for us. I want to give a quick shout out to all our Patreon supporters. If you've been watching the video, please remember to like and subscribe. That's it for us this week. Sahar, thanks so much. Phil will be back next week. And that's it. Have a great day.
Have a great day, guys. Bye.